Thursday, April 24th at 6 p.m. I'm going to call this meeting of the Regional Planning Commission to order. Can we get the roll call?
Carrie Rohrmeyer,
Here.
Dan Lasareski,
Here.
Michael Flick,
Here.
Mike Rawson for Marilyn Kramer, Carl Nieberlein,
Here.
Rob Pierce,
Here.
Shelley Reed absent, Alex Velto,
Here.
and Manny Becerra.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Item 3 on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion?
Commissioner Becerra, for the record, so moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Do we have any general public comment on items not agendized?
Yeah, we have none.
All right, thank you. Item 5A, approval of the minutes for the March 27th Regional Planning Commission meeting. So everyone had a chance to review. Any comments? All right, can I get a motion?
This is Rob. I make a motion to accept as written.
Commissioner Becerra, second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, business of the day.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. The first item, 6A, is a public hearing item, Regional Plan Conformance Review from the City of Sparks Amendment for 800 Holman Way. Nate Kusha has a presentation for us.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. Again, Nate Kusha, Team RPA for the record. As mentioned, this is a conformance review for a City of Sparks Master Plan Amendment, 800 Holman Way. So this is a master plan amendment or a comprehensive plan land use change for City Sparks on a 5.99 acre site going from commercial land use to tourist commercial. The parcel is located on the northeast corner of Pyramid Highway and Holman Way in the City of Sparks. You can see on our regional form map there. And staff's determination is that this master plan amendment does conform with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. So on the screen, you can see the map of the existing land use on the left going to the proposed land use on the right. And that, again, is from commercial to tourist commercial. So the subject site currently includes a non-restricted gaming establishment that was established in 1979, which is currently a non-conforming use under the current commercial land use designation. So the change to the tourist commercial land use is a cleanup and would ameliorate this non-conforming issue. So as many of you are familiar with, this is policy RC9 of the regional plan, and it lists the 5 factors that the Regional Planning Commission must evaluate or consider when evaluating for conformance. So we'll walk through these fairly quickly. As discussed, this request is a cleanup to remedy the non-conforming use on the subject site and will have no impact on housing capacity or population growth. For our next criterion here, the subject site and surrounding area are already developed, and the change from commercial to tourist commercial will not impact regional form, public facilities and services, or natural resources. Finally, as with all of our cases, we make sure regional coordination is at the forefront of our work, and we did send out initial review memo for this case and worked with city staff throughout the process. And we identified no issues with regional coordination as well. So with that, on the screen above is a proposed motion, and myself as well as City of Sparks are available if there are any questions.
Thank you. Does anyone on the board have questions on this item? If not, do we have any public comment on this item?
We don't.
All right. Would anyone like to discuss or make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Please.
I move to find the 800 Holman Way amendment to the City of Sparks Comprehensive Plan in conformance with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Becerra for the record, second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 6B.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeremy Smith for the record. Item 6B is another public hearing item. It's a regional plan conformance review, again, for the City of Sparks Comprehensive Plan. This time an amendment for the Andelin Family Farm. And Chris Tolley has a presentation for this item.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Tolley, Team RPA. This item is a conformance review for the Andelin Family Farm Amendment to the City of Sparks Comprehensive Plan. That case number is CR 25-009. As noted, the proposal is an amendment to the City of Sparks Comprehensive Plan, and we'll cover the details through this presentation. The Sparks Planning Commission recommended adoption of the proposed amendment at their March 20th meeting. And following the City of Sparks Planning Commission's determination, the City of Sparks planning staff submits items for conformance review prior to submitting to the Sparks City Council for final adoption. And finally, regional planning staff recommends that the proposed amendment conforms to the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. The regional form map is on the right-hand side of the screen. As you can see, the subject site is located east of Pyramid Highway. The approximately 164.9 acre site is located at 8100 Pyramid Highway, south of Andelin Ranch Road, east of Calypso Drive, west of Fallen Grove Lane, and north of Stonebrook Parkway. Subject site is located in the Tier 2 regional land designation. The proposed amendment is to change the land use for the subject site from 152.8 acres of low-density residential, 3.7 acres of open space, and 8.4 acres of arterial roadway designation to 8.6 acres of open space, 107.29 acres of commercial, and 49.03 acres of intermediate density residential. Additionally, the proposal includes a request, as considered by the City of Sparks, includes a request for annexation of the subject site to the City of Sparks, and a request to rezone the site from A40, which is agricultural 40 acres, to 115.89 acres of planned development, and 49.03 acres of single-family residential 6,000 square foot lots. You can see the existing and proposed land uses on the screen. Again, that's going from low-density residential and open space to open space, commercial, and intermediate density residential. As we looked at in the previous presentation, Policy RC9 of the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan sets the factors that the RPC must consider when evaluating conformance. And we'll step through the analysis contained in the staff report. In regard to population growth, the request proposes to change the land use designation from LDR, OS, and arterial roadway, again, to open space, commercial, and intermediate density residential. The current land use configuration would allow for approximately 916 units. The proposal would reduce that to approximately 490 total units are able to be constructed on the property, particularly the south side. With a concentration of residential land use switching from low-density residential to the smaller footprint of intermediate density residential, the commercial land use would allow the Andelin Family Farm to continue to exist while allowing residential development on, again, the southern portion of the site. In regards to regional form, The subject site is, again, located in the Tier 2 regional land designation. The proposed land use amendment would result in comparable or compatible land uses with adjoining properties or properties in close proximity. The requested change is appropriate from a regional compatibility perspective, as required by policy RF11 of the regional plan. In regards to public facilities and services, the reduction in overall density potential, as referenced, is estimated to lower the overall potential water use, wastewater generation, vehicle trips, and student generation figures. Furthermore, the potential stormwater runoff is anticipated to be lower with a reduction in impervious surface, such as roadways and sidewalks that are associated with development. The site will sewer to the Tumwater facility. The site will require annexation into Toma's retail service boundary, at least for the residential portion at the southern part of the property. The flood control stormwater facilities will be constructed pursuant to the City of Sparks' design standards, which will be appropriately determined during a development review process. In regards to natural resources, the proposal is not anticipated to impact natural resources. Additionally, by retaining the farm, the local area will continue to benefit from the privately held open space for views, wildlife habitat, water infiltration, and a natural vibe. Finally, the region will continue to benefit from the continued operation of the Andelin family farm. And finally, in regard to regional coordination, Team RPA ensures that regional coordination is at the forefront of our work, and we coordinate with jurisdictional staff and other relevant entities during the conformance review process. Finally, staff did provide an initial review memorandum for this case. That concludes my presentation. The proposed motion is on the screen and also on page 23, I believe, of the packet. Then myself or Team RPA staff and the City of Sparks are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? I don't see any raised online. Any public comment on this item?
We have none.
All right. I suppose I'll entertain a debate or a motion.
Commissioner Becerra, for the record, I guess it's maybe a question out of curiosity. It could be maybe for staff or fellow commissioners. It's a very noticeable change to the landscape in Spanish Springs or Sparks. And I was just curious if there was any noteworthy topics or points of conversation at the Sparks level prior to it arriving here that may have influenced its final state or not. And again, this could be probably to my fellow Sparks commissioners who were likely present, more out of curiosity because it is such a large change.
I don't know if City of Sparks staff wanted to. Oh, there we go.
You know, like, or is, you know, is everything hunky-dory and
I'll let him, but we didn't.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission. For the record, Scott Carey, Development Services Manager for the City of Sparks. Very good question, Commissioner. City's been working with the Andelin family for the past several years on this project, and it's a very unique project in that the city going into the Spanish Springs Valley is annexing a farm to, for the most part, save the farm, where our history in that part of the region has been to basically build over the farm and develop it. Going through our internal City of Sparks master plan process to get the agritourism use that the applicant's looking for with this project, our master plan doesn't quite have an exact land use for that. You know, we looked at open space in City of Sparks master plan. That didn't quite meet the commercial nature or the supporting 10 acres commercial that's envisioned. With we looked at tourist commercial on the other end. That we felt was a little bit too intense. So we kind of landed in the middle with the commercial land use. Obviously, not under the review of this body, the City Council will be considering a corresponding plan development handbook that would allow for the agritourism as well as the supporting commercial with it. But that's kind of where we landed on it. It's a very unique use, and we feel the commercial land use was kind of the best to fit in our master plan.
great. I appreciate that context. Thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Would anyone like the honor of making the motion, or would you like me to? I move to find the Andelin Family Farm Amendment to the City of Sparks Comprehensive Plan in conformance with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report. Do we have a second?
I will second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 6C.
Mr. Vice Chair, thank you. Jeremy Smith again for the record. Another public hearing. Now we're starting, as you guys remember, in December of last year, we adopted the updated 2024 regional plan. That starts the process to analyze all of the existing master plans and affected entity facilities plans versus those changes in our plan. And so we have the first of those coming here today. And so it's a public hearing, conformance review for the newly adopted 2050 Regional Transportation Plan. And Chris Tolley is going to take us through this presentation as well.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Chris Tolley for the record. This is a conformance review for the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan, or 2050 RTP. And that case number is CR 25-007. All right, I'll start with a little overview about the RTP on the next slide. Here, the 2050 RTP was adopted by the RTC Board, and that is the Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, on February 25th of this year. And it was submitted to Team RPA for consideration by the RPC on February 28th, about a week later. Staff is recommending that the 2050 RTP does conform with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan. The RTC is a metropolitan planning organization for Washoe County, and the RTC is required to develop and update the RTP every 4 years. The RTP addresses a minimum timeframe of 20 years. The Regional Transportation Plan includes a list of transportation projects which are prioritized and fiscally constrained, meaning implementable using committed and available revenue sources. Finally, the RTP addresses all of Washoe County, but is focused on the Truckee Meadows Service Area, or TMSA, where this is where approximately 99% of the population resides in Washoe County. List of the key changes for this iteration of the RTP, and that includes new public engagement data collection, new goals, new project prioritization framework based on the goals, updated fiscally constrained project list, and that was based in part on the previous project list, revised project implementation bands, now 2 bands instead of a 5, 10, and I believe 25, or the next 15, it is now 10 and 15-year 2 bins of projects. New fiscal analysis, new travel demand model results and analysis, new air quality analysis and determination of conformity with air quality standards, updated congestion management plan, revised content to clarify and distinguish between the eligibility requirements for regionally significant projects in the RTP and eligibility requirements for projects selected through RTC programs such as pavement preservation. Updates, and then finally updates the content to reflect changes in federal, state, and local laws, programs, and policies. The project list, and we'll step through this a little bit, which you can see an example on the right-hand side of the screen, is developed in coordination with jurisdictions and includes freeway capacity, multimodal, and spot intersection improvements. The projects are indicated in two main timeframes, the first 10 years, which would be 2025 to 2034, and the next 15 years, which would be 2035 to 2050. The project list also includes a third set of unfunded projects that look out really beyond that 2050-year timeframe that are being considered by the RTC and local jurisdictions. However, they are not currently connected to any available funding mechanism. The process to select projects for inclusion in the 2 funded timeframes incorporates the regional land designations, or tiers, as part of the evaluation criteria. So we see the example, which this is on the screen, is from the 2025 to 2034 timeframe. And that again, step back, you can barely see it, but it includes, again, freeway projects, capacity projects, and then multimodal projects, and finally spot and intersection improvements. So this would be a similar situation or similar representation for the second 15-year timeframe. And then those improvements reflected in that list are shown on an overall map. There are 2 additional maps, I believe, in the RTP, which zoom in on the southern and northern portion of the planning area. So this is just an example of what you see in the document with regard to the project list. To move on to the analysis highlights. So for the RTP conformance review, the primary items we consider are alignment of the RTP with the regional land designations. And you can see these presented on the slide on the right-hand side, which is out of the map 2 regional form, directly out of the regional plan. And you can see the darkest blue area in the center is a mixed-use core, and then moving out from there, slightly less dark blue, is Tier 1, and then moving to, as it appears to me, kind of a tealish color, that would be Tier 2, and then Tier 3, and the grayish color. And then everything else in Washoe County would be a part of the rural area. And this is what we're going to look on in the next couple slides, is an important piece to keep in mind. This is required by, so looking at the RTP, this is required by Regional Plan Policy RF2, the priority hierarchy for development in the region, and PF2, promotion of priority hierarchy for public facility and service provision. So we really, when we're looking at the map, we want to see most of the investments that occur with regard to public facilities occur, I guess in a proportional way, in the mixed use core in Tier 1. And then as we move out to Tier 2 and Tier 3, we want to see proportionally less investment so that that maintains, again, the investment based off the priority hierarchy. So through our analysis, we want, again, to see investment in the core of the region. And then finally, policy PF10 reinforces and maintains that the RTP as adopted must be found in conformance with the adopted regional plan. So to move on to the analysis, more analysis highlights. So we looked at, thanks to Jeremy, did an analysis similar to the last iteration of the RTP to look at the improvements that are proposed in the projects list by the tiers. And what we are really looking at for investment for the core of the region, and as Jeremy said or reiterated earlier today when we were having a conversation, that the core of the region it's mixed use core, but it also includes Tier 1 because that's really the centralized area, more or less inside the McCarran Ring. So we looked at this based off of really 2 sets of understanding the improvements, excuse me, in 2 different ways. And one is land area. You can see on the left-hand side, the brown bar is the area in each of the tiers. So it is, I believe, 2% in the mixed-use core, 14%, I need a bigger screen, 14% in Tier 1, and then going on up 40% in Tier 2 and 43% in Tier 3. So looking at, in 2 different ways, looking at the improvements by the estimated cost and then the counts of projects. So we see through this data a clear signal for the prioritization of investment in the core of the region. Again, that is looking primarily at mixed-use core. So you can see the land area, 2%, but we're looking at investment dollars in the neighborhood of 13%. And that, so if we had a road that was spanning 3 different tiers per se, then that line, or there was an improvement that was spanning 3 different tiers, then the amount of roadway in one tier would divide up the overall project cost to that based off a percentage. So if you have 50%, then the project cost would get assigned to 50% of that tier. Hopefully I got that right. And then same deal for project counts. So then also looking at, so we looked at the area in each of the tiers on the previous slide, that's figures 1 and 2 in the staff report. Figures 3 and 4 look at population dwelling units in each of the tiers. So we have 13% of the dwelling units within inside the TMSA occur in the mixed-use core, 28%. So we want to see an investment signal similar to that. And we see that in combining, again, looking really at mixed-use core in Tier 1, we see the prioritization of the core of the region coming through in the data. I think that's pretty straightforward. And we can come back to that if you guys have, if anybody has a question. So to move on to the review criteria. Again, this is what we saw on the previous two presentations. Policy RC9 of the 2024 regional plan sets the factors, 5 factors the RPC must consider when evaluating conformance. In regard to population growth, as required by policy PG2, spatial disaggregation of the consensus forecast, and PG3, use of the consensus forecast for planning travel demand estimates that inform the selection of projects in the 2050 RTP are based on the forecast provided by TMRPA from the 2024 Washoe County Consensus Forecast. In regard to regional form, the 2050 RTP supports the regional plan's goals and policies related to regional form. Additionally, the 2024 regional plan and 2050 RTP are aligned in terms of a desired future with a high-functioning transit service in the core of the region. In support of regional plan policies RF2 and PF2, again, regional land designations, again, were incorporated into the decision-making methodology for the roadway project list. In regards to public facilities and services, the 2050 RTP generally promotes the regional plan in terms of the provision of public facilities and services. The facility and service standards table, which is contained in policy PF1, considered together with a priority hierarchy, and that again was policies RF2 and PF2, provide guidance regarding where transportation improvements should be located to support the prioritization of investment in the core of our region. As described previously, the share of proposed project spending and project counts in both funded timeframes exhibit prioritization when compared with the share of land area and dwelling units within each tier of the TMSA. So that's a more concise way to say what we looked at on figure 1, 2, 3, and 4. The 2050 RTP also considered the current state of the Truckee Meadows together with future land uses in developing the regional roadway projects, the bicycle and pedestrian master plan, and ADA transition plan. In regard to natural resources, the 2024 update to the regional plan added 4 policies to the section through the natural resources plan effort. These policy additions include policies NR4, natural resource consideration areas, NR11, regional trails, NR15, source water protection and watershed management, and RC13, tribal coordination. The RTC's existing processes largely implement these policies, and they have included a reference to the Truckee Meadows Regional Trails Plan in the 2050 RTP, which addresses local multimodal connectivity issues or initiatives. Most of the Natural Resources Plan doesn't specifically or directly apply to the 2050 RTP. However, many of the RTP's guiding principles, goals, and near-term projects further the goals of the region related to air quality, scenic resources, cultural resources, and others. And specifically, the RTP is reviewed for conformity with the Northern Nevada Public Health air quality requirements. And finally, in addition to the policies discussed above, NR1 requires an ongoing implementation of the NR plan, which the RTC participates in on an as-needed basis. And finally, in regards to regional coordination, TMRPA ensures that regional coordination is at the forefront of our work. TMRPA and RTC staff coordinate through regular meetings and also utilize a shared services agreement to further define the relationship between our two agencies. The shared services agreement is updated on an annual basis, and we're working on that right now. That corresponds with both agencies' budget approval processes. Finally, regional planning staff participated in the 2050 RTP update process through the agency working group. the Technical Advisory Committee, and provided comments regarding the 2050 RTP to specifically address inclusion of the 2024 regional plan goals and policies. With that, concludes my presentation, and the motions on the screen and also on page 42 of the packet, and myself and RTC staff are available for questions, or Jeremy as well, I'm sure.
Thank you, Mr. Tolley. That analysis of project expenditure and scope by tier looks like it was a bit of a lift, but I appreciate that breakdown. Do we have any questions for staff on this?
Yeah, this is Rob. I got a question. Can we pull up the tier map that
Yeah.
we had on the screen?
I think that's best.
Yeah, that one. That's fine. Were these tiers picked? When were these tiers all picked out? Do you know?
Jeremy, for the record, yes. These tiers, this regional land designation scheme was worked out as part of the 2019 regional plan update.
19.
Exactly, when we redid basically the entire regional plan. And I would just also add that the boundaries of the tiers reflect exactly the master plan boundaries at each jurisdiction. So we work together with jurisdiction staff to ensure that the right tier, the right density target for the development within the tier matched what the master plans indicated was the goal.
Okay. And what was the for tier 2? What did we say that the maximum capacity was for that? And
Yeah, tier 2 is kind of a suburban tier. It has no minimum, I believe, but up to a maximum of 30 dwelling units per acre. That is rarely realized in the existing development pattern out there, and was kind of included to allow for nodes of potential mixed use and multifamily.
okay. All right. That's all I had.
It's a max. It's a max.
All right, other questions for staff?
Commissioner Becerra, I'm happy to make a motion.
Well,
But-
we would want to give an opportunity for
Oh, sure.
public comment if there's no further questions. Do we have any public comment?
We have none.
All right.
All right. Well, then,
Here we go. Fantastic job, by the way, to everyone involved. Commissioner Becerra, for the record, I move to find the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan in conformance with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based on the findings listed in the staff report.
thank you. Commissioner Lazareski, I'll second. Oh, Mike can have it. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for refraining from ripping on RTC when they're hosting on us.
Mr. Vice Chair, this is Jeremy Smith again for the record. We have one more business item tonight, item 6D. It is the second of our series of overarching plan conformance reviews. This one is for the Regional Water Management Plan, and we have Shawnee Sousa, our regional planner, to take us through this item.
All right. Hi, everyone. Shawnee Sousa, Team RPA. Yes, this is a facilities plan review, and this is for the Regional Water Management Plan, 2021 to 2040. So once again, we'll start with a little overview. The Regional Water Management Plan, also known as the RWMP, is a wide-ranging plan, and it covers the municipal and industrial water supply, water quality, sanitary sewage, sewage treatment, stormwater drainage, and flood control for the region. And this is actually required to be reviewed by the NNWPC, which is the Northern Nevada Water Planning Commission, and updated by the WRWC, the Western Regional Water Commission, every 5 years. And right now they're actually going through their update process, and that's going to be estimated to be completed about the beginning of 2026, so January. And we do believe that the RWMP conforms with the regional plan, but we are going to request some scheduled additions, and they will include that with their update in January 2026. So we'll be bringing this back to show you once they've completed some of these scheduled additions. And here's that same review criteria you've seen for the other cases, the 5 factors that the RPC must consider when evaluating conformance, and I'll briefly take you through each of these now. So first, for population growth, Chapter 7 of the RWMP is Population Forecast and Projections of Water Demand, Peak Day Requirements, and Wastewater Flow. And this chapter really describes the utilization of a few sources. So it's Team RPA's Washoe County Consensus Forecast, then TEMWA's, can't quite read that, it's their Water Resource Plan, and then Team RPA's Land Use Model. And they use this as the basis for estimating future needs of the planning area with respect to water demands, including peak day requirements, wastewater flows, treatment capacity, and effluent management capacity. So this really satisfies Regional Plan Policy PG3, use of our consensus forecast for planning, and there are no other scheduled additions needed for the RWMP for population growth. And next, we'll go through regional form. Chris did a really excellent job at explaining kind of that regional form map and seeing investment, how we would like for the regional form within the core and then expanding out. And so the RWMP does implement the regional plan's kind of overall objective of that, and that the provisioning and accounting of water resources within the Truckee Meadows service area where public facilities and infrastructure are anticipated to be provided versus outside that service area into the rural area. So as I said, that the regional form map is on the left, and that really helps to describe Regional Plan Policy RF2, the priority hierarchy for development within the region. This policy serves to direct that growth and investment toward the core of our region. We believe it's important for all of our partners in the region to recognize this hierarchy and our regional land designations, known as tiers, as we've just discussed. So for regional form, there's one scheduled addition for the RWMP to describe how these tiers are incorporated into their policy framework. Next, we'll take a look at public facilities and services. While the WRWC is not ultimately responsible for constructing improvements, the RWMP is an integrated water resources plan that cooperatively approaches the region's water supply, wastewater management, stormwater drainage, and flood control needs. So on the right there, I know it's really hard to read, but that is our Regional Plan Policy PF1 Facilities and Service Standards table. And it sets the region-wide targets for facilities and services to be included in the land use planning decision-making process. And the first three rows are water, wastewater, storm drainage, and flood control. And as I said, that's what WRWC is tasked with kind of helping manage and coordinate. So what we would like to see is there are two scheduled additions. The first one is acknowledgement of the standards table, satisfying this policy, just kind of tying those together, make sure we're linked. And the second is promotion of facilities and services in line with the regional form priority hierarchy, satisfying the policy PF2, which is promotion of priority hierarchy for public facility service provision. So it's really kind of, what you saw in the regional form, and it's linking that, but more with public facilities and services. So just kind of acknowledging and tying that together within their plan to our plan. Okay, so next we have natural resources. Many of the goals, objectives, and policies in the RWMP related to environmental protection are covered within their natural resource areas. They have various policies, regarding water conservation, water quality, effluent reuse. So they really cover a lot of it. What we did need them to add are just policies that within this last update that we did in 2024 for our regional plan, we need them to include those concepts once again for consistency. So the first one is policy NR4, natural resource consideration areas. The map once again is small, but I think you can kind of get the idea, is right to the right of that. And this map is actually defined as an overlay upon the Truckee Meadows service area and rural area consisting of several natural resource layers, including source water protection areas. WRWC staff has agreed to incorporate this concept into the plan to reflect the compliance with our current policies. And then the second is really just updates to existing language that they have around source water. And we updated and really worked closely with them on this policy. It is policy NR15, source water protection, and watershed management. So that we're all using the same integrated plan, which is actually a web-based plan and has a map of critical source water protection areas. And we worked with them to make sure that when we're doing cases with jurisdictions, that they are able to provide comment about, if there's a case coming in, is it within a critical source water protection area? So overall, they have, the basis of it, but we're just updating kind of the step that we elevated it to. And finally, we have regional coordination, We actually didn't find any conformance issues or any scheduled additions for this, but WRWC staff has committed to fully integrating policy RC14, Team RPA online data and mapping tools into their updated RWMP, which really just talks about the use of our updated maps and GIS data for RPC, RPGB, but also they want to bring that kind of into their plan work and how they look at and review cases as well. The motion is on the screen overhead. I'm available for any questions, or Jeremy is. Thanks.
Thank you, Miss Souza. That was very good.
Thanks.
I really appreciate how you guys have identified the places for them to make additions, and they're working on those. I liked the breakdown of planned investment by tier so much on the regional transportation plan. I wonder if at some point in the future we could get a similar breakdown for the regional water plan, since I know as with everything, investment plans are escalating into the future. Any questions for staff from the board?
Mr. Vice Chair, maybe I could reply to that comment.
Please.
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy Smith, the record. So just in terms of the spatial analysis of improvements, that really is the work that we are aiming to, continue to improve in our public infrastructure plan realm. So for all of those public facility domains that the state law indicates that Team RPA ought to have a role in reviewing, and right now we're collecting the assets, from the previous year and the capital improvement programs, and we're really looking at the dollars. We were able to get that far, but the long-term goal is to have a spatialization of the projects, because in some cases they're not handled that way, but we can actually add that element. And in many cases, like the Tumwa, for example, with water, we would be looking at Tumwa's CIP to see what kind of water projects they're planning. They've given us points, so that kind of analysis is something that we're definitely working towards, and that is a good sort of model. What we did with the RTP, we've been thankful that the RTC over the years always spatializes their project extents, so that's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No public comment.
All right. Entertain debate or a motion.
This is Rob. I'll make a motion if there's no debate. I move to find that the 2021 to 2040 Regional Water Management Plan is in compliance with the 2024 Truckee Meadows Regional Plan based upon the findings listed in the staff report.
Commissioner Becerra, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I think that concludes our public hearings business of the day.
Yep.
Do we have any members or directors' reports?
A short report. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Jeremy Smith again for the record with a short director's report. I just wanted to give you guys an update. We've spent a lot of time over the past years in this body talking about new school approvals and the potential role of Team RPA and the possibility of a project of regional significance mechanism, or how we might help guide those approvals. We have been working obviously through that, and where we've landed and what we brought to the governing board just last week, I guess it was kind of an update on that. And basically the direction that we've, I think, all collectively decided to go, and it feels good, is to move away from the PRS mechanism, the Project of Regional Significance mechanism, and go towards a collaborative approach to craft policy in the regional plan that would help to align expectations and requirements for schools, specifically around some of the topics that came up during our conversations, like consistent application, a public hearing, co-location, and traffic. So we're going to work together on that. It's going to be a collaborative exercise. Usually we aim for new policy additions in the October timeframe of the year for the regional plan. So we'll be working towards that, and hopefully we can get some language that folks agree on ready for that timeframe. So that's an update there. Also, this body had asked me previously, and we did it, to do a report on data centers. That spurred quite a bit of interest, and in fact, took that idea that we talked about last month here of reevaluating, or sort of evaluating rather than reviewing, TMRPA's role in the energy sector. The project of regional significance statutes indicate that certain, any power generation facility, 5 megawatts or greater, any electrical transmission facility or line that is 60 kV or greater, those kinds of gas shaving facilities, geothermal wells need to all be reviewed against the regional plan as projects of regional significance. And so given what we understand about the demand for data centers coming and what that's going to do to the sort of demand for energy in our region, we thought it would be a really good idea to evaluate just exactly what the policies in the regional plan say today about TMRPA's role in the energy sector. And in fact, the governing board thought that was a great idea, but they also wanted us to not forget about data centers and have a focus on that particular use as we move forward. So we are engaging in that. And in fact, on Monday, I will be attending virtually the integrated resource planning session for Nevada Energy is hosting in the morning. If anybody is interested in that, shoot me an email. I'll share the link, but I'm excited to learn more about that process and how NV Energy is approaching the future. And we'll be able to come back and report to you about any progress we make in terms of reviewing our role and our policies. So those are a couple updates. I was able to also, another kind of fun story, able to go on a journey with the aforementioned Western Regional Water Commission program manager, Kim Rigdon. She organized a big journey for elected officials, staff at the local jurisdictions. I was able to go down to Orange County to visit the Orange County Water District's water replenishment facility. We also went to LA County's facility as well. And that's where they take a treated effluent after it's gone through the sewer treatment facility, and then they run it through another facility to turn it into drinkable water or water that's potable that you can put back into the aquifer. Exactly. And so there, the Orange County facility was processing 130 million gallons a day, which is massive. We are working in this region on something similar up in Reno-Stead, where we're going to take the treated effluent from Reno-Stead, take it to the advanced water purification facility, but we're looking at 2 million gallons per day. So a much smaller implementation, but still, a really great step forward in managing our water supply, where we have limited water resources here. We're going to be putting that water back into the ground at American Flat, is my understanding. So that was an awesome trip, and I learned a ton. And then finally, as you guys know, or you may know, that we lost Damian Kerwin last year, and he was our GIS coordinator. So we have posted a job announcement earlier this month. We've gotten several applications. That closes on Monday. So we will start looking at those apps soon and going through a process to interview. And hopefully soon here we'll have a new member of the team as a GIS analyst to help us with all the good work that we're trying to do. So that's my update. Finally, the next meeting of the RPC will be on May 22nd in this room. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Prunty, do we have any legal counsel report?
Thank you. Jessica Prunty for the record. No, nothing to report tonight, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any requests from the board for future agenda items? All right, hearing none. Do we have any further public comment on any items?
We have none.
Do we have any written correspondence?
No.
No. Okay. All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.